Welcome to the Trailblazing Texas podcast, where we embark on a journey through our diverse Texas landscapes and breathtaking trails while always engaging with our amazing Texas hiking community. So settle in, tighten up those bootlaces, and get ready for the thrilling tales awaiting for you on this episode. All right. So, what about you've hiked the Eagle Rock Loop? Let's talk about that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, I am on a chat group with with Todd, with Joe, Trekker Joe's. Todd, he's the admin for the Guadalupe Mountain Backcountry page. JR has a channel called Discover Life Outside. Joe's wife. It seems like everybody has hiked this Eagle Rock Loop. So you're going to have to definitely let me know about this. So just kind of give a brief overview of the trail and kind of like what drew you to hike it.
Um, being with my schedule and all of that, like the first thing I look at is logistics usually when I'm trying to find a trail to hike. And this one was easy because going to see my wife's family in Missouri, it's southern Arkansas, and so just kind of driving that way anyways. But I learned that there's a YouTube channel called Dome Life, and I think they changed their name. They lived in a tent for a while and just kind of were stationed in Arkansas. But anyway, so I first learned about it from them, and it's like that looks pretty cool. And been there a couple times, hiked it all the way around twice. So once again, really cool rocks. From where I am here north of Houston, it's like the closest like actual elevation change. On an easy trail like that. Easy meaning it's like 30-ish miles, maybe a little less. But so it's got some big hills. I guess they're mountains, but I'm not totally sure. It's pretty quick on the elevation change though, so that's neat. Plan on going back there, getting ready for some other trips and hitting those mountains a couple times. There's a lot of water crossings. There's a lot of cool rocks, a bunch of cool waterfalls and springs and stuff like that. And yeah, it's a pretty cool place. It's close. It's a loop. You can start and finish anywhere really, and it's hard to lose the trail for the majority of it. So, and there's usually a good amount of people out there, which could be pros and cons.
So are you day hiking it or are you camping overnight?
I haven't done the whole loop as a day hike yet. I do know people that have, but yeah, solo I did it as an overnight, and then with my wife, we took her time a little bit and did 2 nights, and it's just enjoyable, very very pretty out there.
And then is it just first come, first serve on the campsites? Or you can just
Um,
camp
they
anywhere?
they don't yeah they don't have designated sites, but
Okay.
like and I know you'd be responsible, but other folks that are listening and learning about the trail, like definitely camp where somebody has probably camped before, because it is so popular. Tons of Boy Scouts out there and other groups like that. A lot of college groups and what people spending their spring break out there and things like that. There's just really heavy impact in a lot of places, unfortunately. So yeah, try to use another fire ring that's already been there and stuff like that.
So you should go out there in the dead of winter so no one's out there.
Yeah, yeah, possibly. They do hunt in that in the Oshawas also, so that's another thing to be aware of. But I think most hunters like avoid it because there's so many people on there a lot of times. First, like challenges and stuff like that. Personally, I wasn't. The elevation was cool when I was good, but the decline wasn't something I had done a lot of. Like I had trained for some elevation by running upstairs and parking garages and stuff, but
Yeah.
that's not the same as going down. And if your shoes aren't tied the right way and they're hitting the into the shoes and stuff like that, that was probably the most difficult challenge for me. For some people, it might be the elevation overall and managing wet feet, because your feet are getting wet a lot. Unless it's a really dry season, you're probably getting your
Yeah.
feet wet. You know, if you're doing it in a 2 day, there'll be like maybe one day where your feet are wet all day, and then the other day they'll be dry. Yeah, so you gotta manage that. There are so many socks and water shoes along that trail, and it's like when I was hiking it with my wife last year.
Like, people just
It
left.
I think it probably fell off their bag or
Oh,
something,
okay,
or they
yeah.
forgot it or whatever.
Kinda
Because
like the
they're like
dog poop.
walking, and it's like, um, yeah, well, no, I wish it was so, but it was like, hey, look, there's a water shoe, and then like 10 miles later, it's like, hey, there's the other water shoe. It matches. Could have had a pair if we backtracked 20 miles, but um, yeah, pe- there's so many people who would stop and change their socks like every water crossing, and it's like I know that there's gonna be another water crossing in a mile and a half. I'm not changing my shoes. It's just gonna be wet, and I'm gonna manage that when I get to camp, basically, you know.
Yeah.
So
So are people,
that's
like, taking rocks and trying to make little bridges across, or just
there's some of that, but it seems like the water levels change often enough where it's kind of moving a bunch of stuff around.
yeah.
So sometimes there's really I don't really remember a lot of trees, just being in the same spot long enough for people to like to use it constantly. And the rocks aren't huge at most crossings to be able to do that. So it's based on the water level, but there's some spots where I mean, you're going to get your feet wet. Just plan for that, you know.
So how did you manage that? Just with extra socks?
Yeah, the last time I went, learning my lesson from the Ozark Trail, I brought two extra pairs of socks, and you can see it on the map. It's like, okay, we're getting dunked here, 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 and here, and then we have 5 miles of dry. So I'll change it after that last one, and so I'll have dry feet for five, and then those will get wet. The other ones are dry in the bag, and I got another dry pair in the bag. So yeah, that's what I would encourage people to do. Wearing some shoes that dry fast, right? Trail runners or something, not Gore-Tex, not all weather stuff. And just let that water flow out, and wear probably thinner socks are better, so that they're not holding the moisture in longer.
Yeah.
So like more and thinner socks, I suppose, with that with all the water.
I just started doing this, and I'm not even sure if I mean, it works, but have you ever 'cause and maybe it works for me because I have the same pair of shoes, the same model, different same style, maybe different models, but the insoles are all very, very similar. But I
Yeah.
started also taking extra pair of insoles. So I have,
Ooh, nice.
I have Lone Peaks from Lone Peak 4 all the way to Lone Peak. I don't know what's the latest number, 7 or 8. And so when I go and especially like in the Lone Star hiking trail, I always just carry an extra pair of insoles. And so when I'm go through and change out the socks, I also change out the insoles and they dry really quick. And the reason why I started doing it is because, when I change out socks and I put my, the dry socks on and my feet in the shoes, the insoles are wet. So then now I'm already starting out with wet feet and so far so good. So
Yeah, yeah, that's
if you're
not a bad move.
and it
Like
doesn't
those
weigh
are
anything.
Yeah, they're pretty light, and on the ultras that I've had, those insoles have always been like closed cell foam, or whatever. I'm sure there's a different name for it, or stuff, but it's not retaining. It's not like a sponge, but it is wet. I think I haven't done that, but part of managing it is, like I said, after those five right before that 5 mile stretch, like maybe that's when I'm gonna sit and stretch a little bit, maybe have some lunch, and I've just thrown the insoles in the sun and let them try to dry up a little bit. But yeah, it's a little damp environment. You usually ask a question about like a gear recommendation at the end, so there's something that ties into that, that I'll throw in there, but
You
I'll
have
save it
been
for that
listening.
part. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What about the wildlife? Is it any different that you've experienced than kinda just what we have here? What about in the tick situation? Like, how is that?
Yeah, I haven't encountered any ticks there, and it's lower. It's like the southern. I don't even know if it's considered the Ozarks because it's not in the Ozark Mountains, it's a different mountain
Yeah.
range. Um, so I don't know. Maybe they just haven't creeped down there as much. Or it could be because the trail is so well trodden that it's kind of wide and you're not like brushing up against veg all the time. So that could help too. But even, dirt napping as I do, I've never had ticks out there, and the couple of trips. Wildlife, yeah, just a couple deer, some turtles, and like my first trip around it, I never saw a snake, and
Yeah.
then I went with my wife, who is so like her least favorite thing is a snake ever.
Yeah.
And that was like we had just got on trail, and I'm like worried, like adjusting my backpack straps because I'm carrying, so much more so
Everything.
that her pack can be super light. And so like I'm okay. Like, how is she doing? I'm worried about her shoes. Are they tied right? I don't want her to get blisters. And I'm thinking like, okay, we're gonna go up here, and my mind is on all these details. And I like stepped over a copperhead again. I'm
Jeez.
seeing this as a theme. I need to
Yes.
pay more attention.
I'm never hiking with you.
No, um,
You bring them
but,
out of
uh,
the woodwork.
but she sees it, of course, and
Yeah.
was like, "No, I want to go back to the car now." Not quite that bad, but she was very upset with me and didn't trust my visual acuity for the rest of the trip. Um, so yeah, a couple snakes, some turtles, couple deer, but and not crazy ticks. So
And speaking of wildlife, like one of the last things, and just I can't get off of Guadalupe Mountains. I don't know why. I just love the place. But I want to see a mountain lion. And there are mountain lions out there. You see the tracks. Like it snowed that night and we're heading out at 3 in the morning and these tracks are fresh. They just happened.
oh man,
And I've
it's awesome.
yet to see, yeah, I've yet to see one. There's a lady, and I always call her Ranger Pam. She's not a ranger, she's just a volunteer, and she usually is involved with all the rescues or recoveries out there.
Mm.
People pass away of natural causes or, you know, doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And so she's involved in all that. And so every time I go to the park, I always try, I ask the rangers inside, like, where's she hiking at? Because, she'll go and check backcountry permits and stuff. She's, so this last trip, Ranger Pam, just, she's probably in her 70s, just wonderful to talk to. So I saw where she was, and we were talking about mountain lions. And then we started talking about Mr. Barry, how he was doing. And he was lost out there for like 5 days, and 4 of the days didn't have water, and we're talking. And then she starts talking about like a rescue that she had, and I'm like, man, like that kind of sounds like that movie Infinite Storm. She goes, yeah, it's me. And so she shows me her name badge. It's Pam Bales. Like she's had a lot of rescues, and a movie about her, and I don't know why I got off to this. It's just spectacular. Maybe because of the mountain lion stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, she has a movie about her, and she's in our national park volunteering and rescuing people. And that day, I was talking to her like, how many times have you hiked Guadalupe Peak? And she goes, yeah, this will be today, like her 267th trip up
Oh
to the
man, she's
peak.
got you beat, huh?
Oh yeah, she's got me smoked. But what was cool is like I made a post, like, man, guys, do you realize who we have in our national park? And it was interesting. Even in the Lone Star hiking group, I made that post, and how many people have experienced her. And she helped them with
Oh,
water, she
really?
helped
Wow.
them with wrapping their ankles, she helped them because of this and that. And I was just really spectacular. Anyway, yeah, so we always talk about mountain lions, and that's just kind of got off on a tangent, just talking about the wildlife. I don't
You should
necessarily.
get her on the show.
I I asked her, and she's very I don't want to say like, she's very humble, and
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
very like don't doesn't want the attention, but like, man, she has done some fabulous things, with rescues at the park. recoveries at the park, and it's pretty spectacular that
Mm.
someone like that is at our national park. And everybody that's involved with rescues and stuff are special, but it's kind of cool to. I've been talking to her for years and had no idea that was her.
Wow, that's cool.
So, how would you rate the elevation gains there at Eagle Rock Loop?
Yeah, well, it kind of depends on how you go about it. If you're going clockwise,
Yeah.
and maybe you start at I guess we're looking at a clock like 2 o'clock, so northeast.
Hmm.
um, you can kind of get a feel for things and sample some, and then that southern side of the mountains, because that mountain range runs east and west. That's pretty unique for our continent. Once you get to the south side, it's a little more gradual going that way, going clockwise. But maybe you would rather, when you're at the peak of energy and stuff, do the hills first and start at the northwest side and do those. So the first time I did it, I did that, start at the northwest parking lot, and then did the mountains first. So that was kind of a shock to the system, like that abrupt elevation change right out of rolling out of bed, basically. But with my wife, we did the hills last, and her motivation was getting back to the car to get over the mountains. So, um, but there are some good views and stuff up there. So yeah, elevation not too bad, especially if you start in the northeast corner, I think, and go clockwise.
For someone that's looking to do it, how many days would you recommend doing it in?
Well, yeah, experience and what you want to get out of it. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, three's a pretty comfy hike, I think. You
Yeah.
can do a day of hills, or you can do half the hills, camp in the middle, do the other half, and then you got another half day and a full day of some good views from some of the other geology stuff, uh, like the winding stair and all that is a the trail goes right by it, and it's pretty neat, pretty good views there on the river. So yeah, three would be good if you're trying to take it all in. If you're trying to do a challenge, overnight or one day. But
Yeah, it's like what, 26, 28 miles,
yeah, yeah, and if
something
you
like that.
the parking lot, depending on the parking lot, it might add another mile or two, right, that you go to. So, and I forget the name of it, but there's a southwest parking lot that has like a spur that goes off of it, and so that it might be, I think when my wife and I did it, adding that on there was like 31 or something. So
And
yeah,
is it
right around
because the
around
parking
there.
lots get full, so you had to park somewhere else? Or
Well, that particular time was, I wanted her to hike for. She had never hiked that long. 3 days is the most she's ever hiked. So I wanted
okay,
her to, have the lightest bag possible, and have the miles under her before having to hike the mountains, and then the mental motivation of, well, the car's just right there, just two more mountains to go, and
yeah.
so that was kind of it. I think, if you weren't trying to use that as motivation, then uh, parking lot doesn't matter as much. But it's like four or five main ones, that you can choose from. So
And so, is there any spots along the trail that are kind of must camping spots that you thought like maybe were above the normal ones that you would run into?
man, it's just, the weather up there. I've gone in wintertime both times. One trip in November, one in October. So I guess that wasn't necessarily winter, but anyways, cooler temps. I just enjoy that a ton. I don't know that there's a ton of campsites with like really good sky views.
Yeah.
Um, there's a and I could send it to you later, but I can only
Mhm.
like describe it right now. But there's one really cool one that overlooks I think it's Little Missouri, and so that's a really cool. It's like you cross the river and then you hit some steep elevation, and then it's kind of a cliff that looks over this lower area where the river's at. That one's pretty cool. if it's not too far away from the trail, so pros and cons there. But the really pretty places uh, are close to some trailheads, and so they get you know people get there pretty early to snag those if it's a maybe a busier weekend or something. Yeah, what near the winding stair, there's some cool ones. There's a little cave that you could camp by, but they're all pretty good. But yeah, like I said, I can send you the coordinates for that one particular one. But it's all very pretty.
And before you went, was there anything that, in terms of preparing, getting ready, that you think that someone would need to do than just kind of like what I don't know, like what you would normally do, getting ready for a hike? Anything specific?
Um, yeah, just as extra hikes, or not extra hikes, extra socks, and kind of having a plan for keeping those feet from getting messed up. There's so much water out there. Definitely don't need to cache, in my opinion, um, because you're in and out of the water a bunch. And I've some incline on the treadmill with the bag,
Yeah.
if you can, and try to do some decline if you're coming from a spot where that's not like your normal weekend activities. So
Yeah, it was funny. My friend John up in Washington was gonna hike the Wonderland Trail, so it's the trail that goes around Mount Rainier.
right,
And
yeah,
so, you know, I'm always, when we talk about like upcoming trips, or usually after I have a trip, we'll just kind of chat and what went right, what went wrong. I mean, he should be a guide, like a mountaineering guide, very experienced. They they just tried it here not that long ago, like in July, May or June. And so his goal was, because I'm always complaining about water carries being in Texas, but his
oh yeah,
goal was to not carry any water, just a life straw. Because there's so much water, and I think they ended up getting about 75% of the trail done, and then his wife was having some neck issues, and then he was having like his feet were just trashed. But
yeah,
yeah, so that so that was his goal, was to try to do the whole trail. It's like 22,000 feet of elevation gain, and like 99 to 100 or 98 miles. So
yeah, nice.
it's a pretty big one. But yeah, so his whole thing was uh don't carry any water and see if he could do it. So you're saying that there wasn't, for the Eagle Rock Loop, it wasn't a big water carry, or you didn't really have to
No,
worry about
no,
that?
like if depending on what your plan is for where you're camping around the mountains, like obviously those don't have as much water crossings at all, but probably two-thirds of the trail. I mean, like, I know that when I did it solo, I think I only had my one 700 milliliter bottle, and that's all I was drinking of because I could just scoop some more in a couple minutes. Um,
No.
coming up, I do want to say, like, for the elevation, like, definitely look at the when you're thinking about where you're going to camp, look at those elevation or the topo maps, to kind of understand, like, well, I can't hike or can't camp there because it's too steep on that side, or whatever stuff like that. That'll help if you're looking at those. They give you some more information. But yeah, I forgot to say that a minute ago.
And so what advice would you give to someone that's planning to hike that trail?
Yeah, study those maps. Bring those extra socks. Let's see what else. Yeah, I still want it, even though it's like a pretty popular trail. I wouldn't like disregard, leaving your trip plan and stuff, and on your dashboard, things like that, letting people know because you are still out there, and it is a ways away from towns, even though there's usually a good amount of people. Um, so
Is there any places that you've hiked in Texas that maybe might be comparable to this trail, that people can kind of get an idea before they head out there?
Um, yeah, well, I mentioned the 4C trail a lot. I mentioned that it reminds me of Arkansas. There's the northern part, has a little bit elevation gain.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you were to go up there to the northern terminus of the 4C, hike down the 8 miles to the shelter, spend the night there, come back up. Um, that might be a good idea of what it might be, and it's kind of on the way too. So
All right. So now let's talk a little. I know we talked a whole lot about the Lone Star Hiking Trail, but there's I would like to still touch on a few things. Just in general, can you give us kind of an overview of the Lone Star Hiking Trail?
yeah, longest trail in Texas, right? We it's
It's supposed to
um,
be.
yeah, yeah, for now, right? Till we get a
Yep.
longer one, which I'm cool with that too.
Hmm.
Yeah, so big, gorgeous pine trees. People from out of town always comment on, like, wow, the trees are so big, and they are cool. They're cool to listen to in the wind and to see the sunshine coming from them. So lots of big pine trees, and the amount of like every time I go out there, it does not matter what time of year. There's like something that is blooming. There's some flower that is now it's its peak time, and that just always impresses me so much. Just the tiny little flowers, you kind of get lost in just like the intricacies of these plants and stuff. Got a lot of plants, a lot of plant diversity. In the palmetto palms and oh, I forget what those are called, but it's got some kind of like citrusy plant that grows out there with those big long thorns. Do you remember what I'm
Yeah.
talking
Yeah. I've run into those thorns uh,
about?
bazillions of times. And to the listeners, it's not a thorn. It's about like a 2 to 3 inch long knife that you will be looking at the trail trying to dodge water, and then all of a sudden you're in these bushes, and they're not fun at all.
Yeah, you could like use them as a tent stake if you needed one, probably.
Absolutely.
They're crazy. So all of that is cool. And I love hearing the coyotes out there, and the pigs are neat to look at, from a distance. Yeah, you can get a good glimpse of the stars sometimes. Um, yeah, it's changed a little bit after this last storm, where there's way more sand out there than there ever was before. So tons of sand, and that'll be interesting once that closed section is opened back up. I wonder how much sand is out there too. Like, is this gonna how long is it gonna be this sandy until things are pushed to the side from footprints and stuff? I don't know. So that was
Yeah,
kind of interesting.
and I want to say it's Trailhead 6 to Stubblefield. There's a section that all the trees are knocked down almost, and it's just a big sand bank. So,
Yeah.
there was a lot of flooding there, and it totally changed how the trail used to be. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting once all the I mean that section is open currently, but if they're going to go
Yeah.
and alter the trail at all, or because it was pretty devastated.
Yeah, it's to the point in the parts that I've hiked since then where maybe people don't need gators before, but I'm thinking that would be something I'd recommend during the shakedowns and stuff, is maybe take some gators because there's just a ton of sand on it at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's also I was hiking not the grand loop, but a part of it. So Trailhead 1, and then making that loop to the I guess it's the what is it? The Little Creek,
Little
Little
Lake Creek Loop.
yeah, Little Lake Creek. And when you pass what is it? Pole Creek Trail or something
Yeah,
like that.
Pole
What
Creek.
so that trail is wiped out, or it's not been maintained, but then as soon as you get off that trail and head south along the creek, like that whole section is wiped out. Like it was all no trail markers, no trees hardly. I mean, there's trees, but not like it was.
Yeah.
No trail
Yeah.
markers, and it was all bushwhacking. And it took me, God, it was probably an hour to get through that section. Losing the trail, constantly just having my phone out to make sure that I'm heading. heading on the trail. But yeah, it was pretty devastating to see what that storm did to that section.
Yeah, Pole Creek has been kind of let go for a number of years, but yeah, I imagine that I haven't been back out there since that storm, so I need to and
Oh,
see
okay.
what you're talking about.
Yeah. So what sections do you find, I guess, particularly rewarding? So like for me, of course you gotta say Trailhead 6 to Lake Conroe. I also love the Four Notch Loop, but if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
start from Trailhead 8, I mean, that's kind of spectacular because the loop you have like 20 something river crossings or creek crossings. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But there's a section, and it's if you get to right when you first start hiking on it, you get to the little split off where you can go right or left, and you go left, and maybe you hike about a half a mile, and you dump out onto the road, and you take a left, and you walk the road for, I don't know, 2 or 300 yards, and there's, like, a little parking lot, but, man, like, that section right out of that parking lot, you have, these really tall pine trees that are very skinny, and you have that beautyberry bush, and,
Uh-huh.
it's
Yep.
like they're all the same height, and you just have this all the same type of tall trees, and then, this bush that you can kinda just see the tops of, and, you can see forever, and man, when the sun hits through that area, it's,
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
spectacular.
Absolutely.
So what about you? What are some of the sections that you enjoy?
Yeah. Well, the big sections, the big creek and the big woods,
Yeah,
are really beautiful. And for some of those reasons you just mentioned, especially if you get some fog in the morning, that's just so surreal to have to see the fog, in between all those trees.
and then the
It's
light
something.
kinda, like, going through them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And then the in the big creek right before you get to the road walk to go to Magnolia, there's like a different kind of grass that grows in there, and it's like bright green, and there's not a lot of underbrush like there is with the beauty berries and other places. And so you kind of get these bright green grasses contrasted against the dark brown bark um, of the pines, and they just go seemingly forever. It's almost mystical looking. It's pretty
yeah.
cool.
Alright, so, yeah, I mean, I think from the first part, we touched on a lot of the Lone Star Hiking Trail, so as we start to wrap this up, what is on your bucket list, your hiking bucket list, and, I don't know, the coming year? What are some of your next trips that you're planning that you wanna get accomplished?
Well, since you've mentioned it 137 times, this podcast alone, right? So we gotta go to the Guadalupe Mountains. That's on there. But uh, let's see. Like in the next couple months, I want to do the trail between the lakes, just because I haven't done it yet, and that's towards the Louisiana border, and I think it's like 28 miles each direction, and just goes between two forests. I think Angelina is one of them. I need to know more about it and watch for snakes. But like, so I want to do that just because it's over here and I haven't done it yet. Gonna do the 4C again. That's kind of become like an annual tradition. But the summer, I've been planning for a couple of years to do the Tahoe Rim Trail out in Nevada, California,
Mhm.
and like two years ago, I was getting ready for it, and then they got too much snow, and I had a baby that was going to be born, so I had a small window in the summer where I could go hike, and so then I ended up getting injured, so I couldn't go to my alternate trail. I was going to do the Superior Trail, but or yeah, up in Superior Hiking Trail, and couldn't go to either one. But the baby was good, so that's cool. And I'm not sure when. Maybe 2026 or late 2025. I'm not sure. I want to try to do the Ozark Trail again, just because like it bugs me I didn't get to finish it, and I'll bring more socks this time and in a less ticky season. preferably. But
Yeah, you would have to probably hit that like right after a freeze.
right, yeah, I've seen on the on some of their pages like people are finishing it right now. So sometime around that, I'm not sure that's gonna how that's gonna work, but I do want to do it.
Yeah.
So TRT and the OT are some of the bigger hikes on the bucket list in the upcoming months.
Well, if you ever are heading out to the 4C and you want a hiking partner, you definitely have to hit me up because that's one that I've wanted to hike.
Yeah, yeah, let's go. It's a cool, quick little trip.
All right, so the two most famous questions on the podcast. What is one piece of gear you'd recommend to a new hiker or backpacker? And you know, this is kind of a cool question because I don't this is will be the 35th, 36th and 37th episodes and I don't know that I've had really the same answer from anybody. So, you know,
Yeah,
I
that's
love
really
these
cool.
questions. So,
We should make like a master list
yeah, I
of stuff
should.
people have said. That'd be cool. All right, so yeah, I've been thinking about this one when you first reached out to me and I started like binging episodes. All right, so not for new hikers probably, but I think everybody should try at some point a backpacking bidet, and try leaving the TP at home. Um, so I'm a big fan of that because I don't like packing that stuff out and I don't like leaving it in the woods. And
Yeah.
it's not quite as annoying to me as the dog poop in the bags, but it's like you ever see the movie Up, and
Yep.
he's asking the old guy, "Do I dig the hole before or after?" And he's like, "It's before."
Yep.
It's like so many people live that out, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I brought toilet paper so I could take a dump in the woods, but like now what do I do with it?" And so there's enough TP out there, if us backpackers started, using high pressure instead of toilet paper, I think that would be good for the environment, but it's just cleaner to have like to wash yourself with soap and water, rather biodegradable soap that goes in the cat hole. Just throwing that out there, rather than more spreading stuff with more paper. And
Yep.
you need to wash your hands anyways. Like there's no amount of hand sanitizer that is going to sanitize feces. Like you still need to wash your hands, in my opinion. So all right, so
Hey, you are 100% right. And while you're talking, just I'm going to grab something real quick.
okay, cool, cool. Yeah, so I wouldn't say that's like new backpacker, 'cause there's like enough new things a new backpacker needs to do. That oh, what you got there? What was that?
That was my wag bags that I take, but
Oh
also,
yeah. Jason is now looking through his 128 backpacks to find what he's talking about.
oh, wait, it's not here. Um, no, I have a portable bidet. You are absolutely right. I
Awesome.
have
Yeah.
every aspect of my life revolves around a bidet, whether I'm at the house or on a backpacking trip.
Yeah, me too. The hiking bidet and the not taking some stuff led to now I have one, like a handheld one that I take on whatever. I'm gonna go to my in-laws and I'm gonna take one here in
Yep.
a couple weeks, and we got one at home. It's just such a better cleaning experience. The Europeans got that one right for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny. My sister-in-law told my wife about a bidet, and I was like, "There's no way in heck I'm using that. Nope, nope, nope." I went on a backpacking trip and came home, and my wife had bought one and installed it, and I'm like, "Nope, I ain't using it. Nope, nope, nope." And then like one day, I was like, "Okay, I'll try it." This has
Yeah.
been like 3 weeks afterwards, and man, that's the best thing since sliced bread. And I don't know why it's not in my ditty bag, but yeah, I have its own water bottle, and I have a portable bidet that fits on there, and yeah, it's
Which one are you using?
the Coolio Clean.
Okay, yeah. I have the Holy Hiker. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, that one's it's just great. And I don't know, people get grossed out by it. It's like ew. And it's like, dude, you wash your crack in the shower, right? Like, this isn't different. This is
Yep.
running water and soap. Like, it needs to happen, man. It gets funky
Yep.
back there. So,
Yeah,
okay,
so
so
I
that's yeah, that's
that
not the new hiker recommendation, but I definitely recommend. I think everybody should try it. They're not too
Yep.
expensive, right? Like people drop so
No.
much more money on other backpacking gear. This is a tiny thing that if you don't like it, like I don't know, keep it around and maybe you'll change your mind. It probably doesn't sell very well in the secondary market, but uh,
Yeah. Yeah, and now I'm worried because 'cause I'm heading out Friday for a backpacking trip, and now I don't know where it is.
oh man, yeah.
Yep.
Well, so the thing I would recommend for a new hiker and other hikers who maybe don't have a solution yet is something I love things that are multi-use and I love things that are free. And that is the bag from your loaf of bread. Um, I mentioned
Okay.
earlier that my wife is gluten free, so gluten free bread for whatever reason comes in like an extra mill or two thick bag of bread or bread bag, right? So bread bags. I carry two bread bags. Oh, there it is. We found the bidet, ladies and gentlemen. Um, um, so I carry two bread bags pretty much in every trip, and here are the things that they do for me that I can remember. Um, Number one thing is when my shoes are wet, they are my camp shoes. I will put on fresh
Huh.
socks. I'll put the bread bag over the clean socks and then slip them back into my loose, wet shoes that are going to dry out overnight, right? No insoles in them. So there's a lot more room in there, but it keeps the socks dry. And they are also my dry bags for my clothes. Like I use a pack liner, um, but if I'm accessing layers and stuff, I don't want to like dig through my sleeping bag and undo the pack liner to get in there. So it's a stuff sack, but it's not an extra stuff sack. It's one that I'm using for other stuff. So I'll throw my dry socks and wind shirt and maybe some insulation in there. And so that's kind of
Yeah.
self-contained. I'll stuff one bread bag with the stuff in it inside the other one, and that's pretty good. Um, and let's see what else do. Oh, I've used them as buckets on the Eagle Rock Loop because there's so many maybe less experienced hikers. I have come across campfires that not only weren't like Smokey the Bear put out, but like
Oh, man.
still an open flame on them. And it wasn't right next to any water, so like hiked a couple extra miles, filled up my bread bags, which is like a gallon in each one, and dumped it on the fire and was able to do it the right way. Um, and so there's just so many. It's a bag. You can hold things in it, but also it's a bag, and it will keep water in stuff or out of stuff. And I just find myself using them, in a bunch of different ways. So
Yeah.
they're cool. I like the bread bags.
And that's, you know, the multi-use thing, the thinking outside of the box, like, that's, yeah, I mean, that's really neat, and, it's, almost free, right? You're using them anyway because 'cause you're buying,
Yep, exactly.
that bread and stuff. Yeah, so that's that's pretty spectacular. So, to the listeners, you know, look around you, and there's gonna be some opportunities where, you're not really spending money and you're being able to enhance your hiking life, backpacking
Yeah,
life.
for sure.
So same question, but it has to do with safety advice. So what is one piece of safety advice that you would give to a new hiker or backpacker?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier on in the show that I'm big on medical training, and that I think that's something everybody should prioritize. That there's places that do it for free. There's annual June is Stop the Bleed month every year, and a lot of like local fire departments and stuff will put on 1 or 2 hour classes, just like kind of in the same tier of like CPR training. First aid training stuff, and just go get that. Right, information is weightless. It costs your time and maybe some money, but you get to take it everywhere on every trip for the rest of your life to have the knowledge and get some reps with the skills, and so get some medical training. I have a mentor up in the Dallas area. His name's Caleb, and he runs the Lone Star Medics, and he does phenomenal classes that are 8 hours long or 16 hours long over 2 days, and just can really give you a lot of competence and confidence, knowing how to address life-threatening injuries that nobody hopes to encounter those things, but you would definitely hope somebody knows what to do if you do encounter those things. um, you know and so get some medical training, right? It's not buying stuff, but you may have to buy it. People kind of strain at the gnat with oh, I don't want to pay $250 to know how to do this stuff, but I'm going to stay up till 3 in the morning so I can buy that new backpack when it drops.
Yeah.
That's the same amount of money, and the knowledge is going to be there forever. And everybody who buys a lot of gear knows, like, hey, I'm buying this to be the end all be all, but it's probably not gonna. I'm probably gonna buy the new thing later when it comes out and it's better. So the training and knowing, and then after you know stuff, then you can be better informed about what to carry instead of just listening to the guy on Reddit who's like, all I need is ibuprofen and a safety pin. Like, I don't know how many times I've read that on comments where it's like, if I need more than ibuprofen, I'm really messed up. And I'm like, yeah, so you should probably have more than just ibuprofen because you might die. It's
Yeah,
not like,
and being able to act in a timely manner could also save your life.
yeah,
Like,
absolutely, right.
having an idea, like, I've heard, like, if it was a couple more minutes that this didn't happen, that person would
Yep,
have
yep.
this or that. And that's one thing that I have really started to look into and focus more on is, I have some basic knowledge, but is to take a wilderness first aid class. And, I everything that I research, it's really kind of confusing to, like, okay, just really the whole thing, like, where a lot of them are not located around me or in Texas. And then, just it's in Texas, but it's not really what I was looking for. So, but yeah, definitely I am lacking the knowledge, and I think that's something that if I'm going to continue, which I don't know that I would ever not be outdoors, that I definitely need to increase my knowledge, for myself and for the people that I'm with.
Yeah, and it's so much more than just being in the backcountry too. Like, I mean, all of us probably can't count the amount of car accidents we've passed and stuff. It's like this is something that helps people around me that I love, that I'm around every day, and my kids, my family, um and you mentioned, like, if it was just a couple more minutes or whatever, but the only reason you know that story is because they lived, right? How many
Mhm.
people, like, if they had received some immediate treatment in those first couple of minutes, would have been able to tell a story instead of just being a casualty on a list, you know?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%
So
correct.
hey, go hit up Caleb at Lone Star Medics and tell him I sent you. So
Okay, I'll definitely will. All right, so last question. Uh, is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners? Whether it's anything about your hiking and backpacking experience, is there any funny stories? Anything before we wrap up?
um man, no, it's been a great conversation. I really appreciate you having me on, and um yeah, I don't know. I think we've told some good stories. Just
Yep.
be safe out there. Everybody respect each other, and like, the internet's a funny place sometimes, and everybody can we can take a deep breath uh, and understand not everybody enjoys the same things or has the same capabilities, and that's all. It's all good. It's all uh, part of being out there and hiking your own hike. So um, yeah, enjoyed being on, Jason. It's good talking to you.
No, man. Hey, thank you so much for coming on. And it's really funny. because like I'll reach out, like I reached out to you and see if you wanted to come on. Some people are like, like, who is this? What are you asking? And then I'm like, okay, just listen to the podcast first. And I'm not a scammer. I'm not, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I definitely get some questions. But no, I definitely, was excited to hear about your company and what you're doing with our hiking community, especially it being so local to us. That I definitely was not going to leave you alone until you came on. So again, you want to give out the company name and how they can connect?
Yeah, Old Ravens Outdoor Equipage. We're on Facebook, and we're popping around the Lone Star Hiking Trail page quite a bit. And
Mhm.
whatever I can do to help you get out on the trail, want to be there for you.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and you have a wonderful rest of your night. And that wraps up another exciting episode of the Trailblazing Texas podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode today, and stay tuned for our next episode where we will pick back up where we left off and guarantee to uncover many more hiking gems and share many more tips to enhance your experience on the trail. Until then, happy trails and happy hiking.